Memory Code.
What's up, everybody? This is Memory Code. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made the drum rack from this beat. Let's get into it. I think it's really important to know at least a little bit about the history of hip hop. If you know about the people that helped create the art form and how they did what they did, it's going to give you a lot more depth and knowledge to draw from while you're creating and developing your own style.
So respect the architect.
So yeah, check out the description for a few links so you can get in there and do a little bit of research, and also a link to check out my book, The Breakbeat Bible, which has even more information about a lot of the classic drum breaks that are used in hip hop. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is drag a drum break from my browser into an audio channel. For this, I'm using the break from Impeach the President by the Honey Drippers. I talk a little bit more about this on page 49 of the Breakbeat Bible. Here's what it sounds like. So yeah, this is a classic drum break. It has really good drum sounds, so it's great source material for chopping. Next, double click on the clip bar and go down to the clip view and turn warp on. And then you can go through and double click over each sound that you want to chop out. If you hover in this gray area till you get the speaker icon and then click, you can really quickly hear what a sound is and decide if you want to keep it. So now I'm going to go through and pick out the sounds I want. I definitely want this kick right here, so I'm going to just double click right above it and put a warp marker and right click on that warp marker and do set 1.1.1 here. When you turn warp on in Ableton, it automatically puts a warp marker right at the very beginning. So I don't want that right there, so I'm going to just double click right on it and delete it so I don't get a chop of this blank space right here. Okay, and now I'm going to just go through and pick out the rest of the sounds that I want. So yeah, definitely want that hi-hat, definitely want that snare, definitely want that hi-hat and both of those kicks, definitely want that open hi-hat. I'll just get, let's see, one more snare sound. I like to get at least two different types of each sound so I can mix them up and have a little bit of variety in my beats. Once you have your warp markers in there, just go back up to the clip bar and right click, and at the bottom of the menu select slice to new MIDI track. And then here you can choose what type of subdivision you want your slices, or in this case, since I picked out each individual sound that I wanted, I'm going to do slice per warp marker. For your slicing preset, there's a lot of really good built-in presets, but you can also make your own custom preset, which is what I did. So I'm going to select Memory Code Drum Chops, and then I'm going to turn Preserved Warp Timing off since I'm going to be using these sounds as one-shots. And once you're ready, just click OK. Ableton automatically puts each chop into its own pad on a drum rack. And it also sequences a MIDI pattern just based on the order of your chops. I'm going to play my own pattern, so I'm going to just delete that. And then before I do anything else, I like to just go in here and label and organize all the pads. Just by doing that, I think it helps me have a smoother workflow when I'm writing and editing. To do that, just click on a pad. On Mac, you can hit Command R and rename it. So I'm going to call that Kick 1. I'm going to call that Pat 1. So yeah, you can see I have my kicks in the bottom row, snares in the next one, hi-hats on the third row, and then I like to keep this open for percussions or any other effects. And then the next thing I do is truncate and filter the sounds. Okay, I'm going to start with the hi-hats. The first thing I'm going to do is truncate the sound, and that just means to adjust the start and end point to get rid of any unwanted sections of the sound. So to adjust the end point, you can just go to this triangle right here, click on it, and drag it in. I like to keep my hi-hats pretty short so they don't take up too much room in the mix. And you can also adjust the fade in and the fade out down here with these dials. If you're ever getting any pops and clicks in your sounds, you can just put a little fade. But for now, I think that's a good length. Okay, and then I'm going to adjust the filter over here. With hi-hats, I like to use the filter to cut out a lot of the low frequencies that I don't want. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn this to a low cut, also known as a high pass. I'm going to set it to the 12 dB cut, and in my slicing rack, it automatically turns on the SMP filter mode. But these four are all really good models of analog filters. Check out the description. I'm going to link so you can read a little bit more about each type. I really like the SMP for drums, and I'm going to set the frequency to 1K. So everything below 1K is going to be cut by 12 decibels. And with these analog filters, you also get a little drive dial. So I like to add just a little bit just to give it a little bit of extra sauce. So for now, I'll just give it 2 dB of drive. So there's my hi-hat. And I'm going to process the rest of the hi-hats the same way. So here's what my hi-hats sound like now. Okay, next I'll do the snares. I'm going to bring in the end time a little bit. I usually like to keep my snare sounds pretty short also, so they don't take up too much room in the mix. And then I'm also going to cut out a little bit of the lows. So I'm going to turn this to my high pass. I'll do the 12 dB cut for now. For snares, I usually like to cut everything below 180 hertz, but a lot of it depends on the tuning of the drum and what else is going on in the track. But 180 is usually a good starting point. I'll give that a little bit of drive also. Alright, and I'll do this next snare the same way. Bring in that end time a little bit. Put a little fade. 12 dB cut. High pass. Set it to 180. And this one has a little bit of a weird start time. You can also turn snap on. And what that does is automatically puts the start and end point at a zero crossing. So you can use that, but I usually like to just use my ears and go by feel. And if needed, if I'm getting clicks or pops, I'll just put a little fade in. So I'm going to just bring in the start time so it's a little tighter. All right, that sounded good. Next, I'll do the kicks. All right, so this kick has a few vinyl crackles at the end. I really like that, but since I'm planning on using this as my main kick, I think it would be a little too much to have those crackles after every kick drum note. But check this out on Mac. If you hold down Option, click and drag, you can duplicate a pad. First, I'm going to rename this Crackle. And I'll rename it up here too so I don't get confused. And then I'm going to just move in the start time so I only get those few crackles right there. Put a little fade. And then I'm going to cut a lot of the lows out of there. Try, let's see, 2000 hertz. So now I can just have just that crackle. I'll go back to my kick sound and I'll get those out of there. So now whenever I want, I can just add in those crackles, but they don't have to play every time. A lot of times when you're chopping a drum break, the kick will also have a hi-hat sound in it. So I usually like to cut out a little bit of the highs. So when I play a hi-hat at the same time as a kick, I don't get too much of a frequency clash and too much of a buildup of those higher frequencies. So maybe I'll set that around there for now. Bring that in pretty short and put a little fade out. All right, that's good for now. I'll do the same thing to this one. Bring it in. Cut out some of the highs. And for the pre-kick, a pre-kick is just, it's usually a shorter, a little bit more muffled kick drum sound that happens before a bigger kick. So I like to cut a little bit more highs out of the pre-kick than the regular one and make it a little bit shorter. So it's a little bit buried in the mix, so it doesn't jump out, but it adds a nice bounce. Okay, and the next thing I do after I've done this quick processing is I'll just jam on my drum pads and come up with the pattern. All right, word, once I come up with something that I like, I just record it. Okay, and then I'll just go in and edit what I played and fine tune the pattern, take out notes that I don't want in there, add extra notes that I do want in there, adjust some of the timing and velocity. Oh, actually, check this out real quick. This is what I was talking about before, where in the piano roll, you can see all of the names of each pad. So it really helps you, if you want to go in and edit or add or delete notes, you know what you're working with. Okay, so after editing, here's what my pattern sounds like. All right, then at this point, I like to just do a quick volume mix. You can do that right here with these volume boxes. The first thing I'd like to do is just turn all of the hi-hats down by kind of a lot. A lot of times when you're chopping up a drum break that has already been mixed and mastered and like pressed to vinyl, the hi-hats end up really cutting through. So I'm going to just start by turning them all down by -10. And I'm actually going to turn the open hi-hat down by -12 because that one really cuts. I'm also going to turn the pre-kick down. Let's see. Okay, so with the new sound levels, here's what it sounds like. Okay, cool. So you can still hear the hi-hats, but they're a little bit underneath. And that pre-kick is sitting a little bit lower in the mix too, so you almost more just feel it than hear it. There's a few other things that I like to do to further process the sounds. I'm going to talk more about that in part 2 of this video. So stay tuned. I'll be getting into further EQing the sounds, using other effects like saturation and compression, and also using return tracks with effects like reverb and bit crusher. And I'll also be talking a little bit about width and stereo imaging. So stay tuned for that. All right, so that's part one of how to make classic boom bap drums in Ableton. I hope it was helpful. Hit me in the comments if you have any questions, and check out the description for links to schedule a one-on-one Ableton lesson with me, to buy my book, The Breakbeat Bible, to get a free download of the Ableton Live project from this video, and a free download of 300 classic drum breaks. I'm going to just play a little bit now of a beat that I made using this drum rack. Thanks a lot for checking out this video, and peace and much love.
Memory code.